Morning everyone. So for today's module, we are going to tackle about the nature and the goals of stylistics. So these are the objectives of stylistics. Define stylistics and explain its nature. Discuss the concept of style and stylistics and mention various approaches to style. And the last one is to explain the goals of stylistics. So what is stylistics? Since it emerged as a significant academic field within the scope of linguistics in the 1960s, stylistic has continued to attract intellectual attention of varying degrees. Several meanings and theories of stylistics exist in linguistic scholarship, while some see stylistic as a branch of linguistics that deals with the study of varieties of language, its properties, principles behind choice, dialogue, accent, length, register, while others insist that it attempts to establish principles capable of explaining the particular choices or style used by individuals and social groups in their use of language. So, stylistic has been considered a developing and controversial field of study by Crystal Davy. The existing approach to stylistic analysis are numerous and diverse, causes difficulties to researchers striving to apply methods of stylistic analysis and to draw a distinct line of demarcation between them. So the basic assumption underlying Crystal and Davis' approach to stylistic analysis is that any use of language displays linguistic features which allow it to be identified with one or more extra linguistic contexts. By feature, they mean any bit of speech or writing which a person can single out from the general flow of language and discuss. Extra-linguistic context includes everything non-linguistic which exists at the time of using linguistic features. So for Turner, stylistic concentrates on why and how language varies. Style is seen distinctive. In essence, the set of sum of linguistic features that have characteristics of genre period of time. So for David Birch, views language as ideologically loaded. Ideologies are hidden in that text that cannot be exposed but by regarding this text as discourse. So, to Birch, communication is a dynamic activity because of the whole process of making meaning is a dynamic one. So, meanings do not exist out of communication, nor they exist finalized. Unchanged versions or products available to language users for use at any time. So, in short, stylistic is the study of ways in which meaning is created through language, literature, and non-literature. Stylistics uses linguistic models, theories, and frameworks as analytical tools. It describes and explains the working of a text and how it is created from the words of the page. Taken together, all these arguments demonstrate that style is central to the study of stylistics. The word style refers to the choice of words, expression in a given context by a given person for a given purpose, and so on. Thus, studies in style have shown that style is the selection and the arrangement of linguistic features which are open to choice by the veto. Oftentimes, the author's identity is given away by some detail reflecting habit of expression or thought, and these seem to confirm that each writer has a linguistic thumbprint, an individual combination of linguistic habits which somehow betrays him in all that he writes. Accordingly, a writer's idiosyncratic way of expressing himself or herself is an offshoot of his or her personality. Crystal and Davy opine that style is the effectiveness of a mode of expression. So, to Davy and Crystal, style is defined as the effectiveness of the mode of expression, which is achieved by saying that a writing is the most effective way. This definition states that a choice has to be made of the writing to say from the many things to be said. This demonstrates the fact that the concept of choice is a significant factor in the study of style or stylistics. Style may be said to relate to communicative performance, which is the demonstration of speakers' or writers' language capacity and generating and understanding specific communicative context. Stylistics, therefore, is the study of style, but style itself, by its nature, is a subject of debate. Now let's go to the nature of stylistics. Stylistics is a borderline discipline between language and literature. It focuses on language use in both literary and non-literary texts. In doing this, it uses insights from numerous disciplines such as literature, psychology, sociology, philosophy, and so on. Stylistic is a distinctive term that may be used to determine the connection between the form and effect within a particular variety of language. Therefore, stylistics looks at what is going on within the language, what the linguistic association or that the style of language reveals. Therefore, while it has its own focus, it is multidisciplinary in nature. Stylistics looks at style in such dimension as the first one we have it here, the style of choice. So this considers style as the characteristic choices that a writer or speaker makes in a text that the various levels of language description. So when we say style as a choice, it is one of the very important tools in terms of stylistics. It is always the writer's choice. It depends on how the author or a writer uses ideas that are available in his or her mind. It is also depends on how the writer expresses thoughts in a given text that depends on the situation or genre that he or she will use. Style as deviation. What is deviant, what does not conform to the standard is said to be stylistically significant. This can also be at any level of language description. It can make the author's language creative. They're using language that they can use to give the readers unexpected surprises and a strong impression towards their literary works. They created new word that did not exist previously. Sometimes they use figurative language in their literary work. Style as situation. The situation is the context in which a text comes to life. This could be physical, socio-cultural, pragmatic, and etc. Language is used according to situation or circumstance. The author should have to choose language that is related to the situation that they are writing. Also, context determines language choice in speaking or writing. Also, there are certain words that are appropriate for certain occasions while some are considered taboo or vulgar. Style as temporal phenomenon. This deals with the time of relevance of style, that is whether it is still in vogue or not, ancient or modern. So, a good example is Old English versus Modern English. So, style as a temporal phenomenon here, the time factor plays an important role. When the writer wants to write a text, he or she has to consider the time factor. Style as individual. This focuses on specific features that are associated with a particular individual's, writer's or speaker's idiolects. It implies the peculiarities or uniqueness of a writer's individual manner of using language means to achieve the effects of desires. So, each one of us has a unique talent on how we're going to write a specific poem and stories. Now let's proceed to the goals of stylistics. Stylistics is adapted in nature such that its framework, as a veritable linguistic, analytical approach, deals with a whole range of human discourses like medical, religious, political, legal, social, interpersonal, group communication, and so on. The practice of stylistics is targeted at achieving certain goals. So, the first one is to establish discourse peculiarities. Stylistic studies the peculiarities that characterize the discourse of a writer, speaker, period, people, or genre. Hence, stylistics could bring out certain features of Sienka's works which are different from Osofistan's works. It could help us identify the British English style as different from American English style. So, one of the goals of stylistics is to establish discourse peculiarities, meaning we could easily identify the difference between two texts by studying the uniqueness that depict the discourse of a writer, speaker, period, people, or genre. And in order to achieve it, we should look and analyze at many features of a text like its syntactic features and many more. To induce appreciation of discourses, stylistics involves the appreciation of a discourse in order to increase our enjoyment of the discourse. It opens the reader's minds to the form and function of a particular discourse. Stylistics is sensitive to different linguistic manipulation and choices a given text. It unfolds the beauty in authorial and characteristics linguistic choices and opens the reader or listener's mind to the aesthetic appeals of such choices. So, this goal of stylistic is to bring out appreciation of the scores for the readers or listeners to enjoy. That is why authors are using different styles and choose great words and attention-seeker sentences to tide up the readers will engage the text without the feeling of uncomfortably or being forced. The last one is to ascertain linguistic habits. An author's style is the product of a particular linguistic habit conditioned by some social, cultural, and ideological environments. The objective of stylistics is to help determine the linguistic background and orientation of a given speaker or a writer. Thus, according to Chatman, every analysis of style can be seen as an attempt to discover the artistic principle that underpin the choice of a writer that has made. As a useful tool in the interpretation of text, stylistic serves as a mode of analysis for learning language and developing awareness for the working of language and the development of confidence to work systematically towards effective interpretation of the text. This knowledge would lead us to arrive at an objective rather than a subjective conclusion. So, I think that this goal has influenced the author's particular linguistic habit that because of his social, cultural, and ideological environment, he or she will able to create a unique style of literary works. So, according to Chatman, it is the gateway that we can identify what the writer's artistic principles on how she will deliver a text. So, in other words, it is about discovering author's linguistic background and orientation.
So hello everyone, I am Mary Rose Dumali and I will going to continue our discussion about the nature and goals of stylistics.
Now let us proceed and continue our discussion about the goals of stylistics.
So the knowledge of stylistics equally results in a proper analysis of speaking and writing habits, of course to discover patterns which characteristically differentiate one variety of language from the other.
So to further explain, of course, when you are speaking and writing, you need to consider the knowledge of stylistics. That would equally result in the proper ways or analysis.
So and the factors that we need to consider includes the situation, mode of communication, context, and social-linguistic constraints.
So why do we need to consider these factors? Of course, because it is one of the goal in the stylistic to obtain proper knowledge that would result to a proper analysis for speaking and your writing habits. So according to Crystal and Davy in the year 1969, the aim of stylistic is to analyze language habits and also to make a critical judgments. The aim of stylistic is to analyze language habits. So it has a main purpose of identifying from the general mass of linguistic features common to English as used on everyday conceivable occasions. Those features which are restricted to certain kinds of social context to explain, where possible, why such features have been used as opposed to other alternatives, and to classify these features into categories based a view of their function in the social context. And the next one is to make a critical judgments. So the application of stylistics on a discourse may help a stylistician to make an evaluative or critical judgment. Stylistician often makes value judgment statements, like for example, it is composed in grand style. So the critical judgments made based on veritable data are usually objective, hence, stylistics can help us reveal a good style from a bad one. So now let us proceed. So in order to achieve the goals stated above and some others that have not been mentioned here, stylistics looks at many features of a text such as graphological features, syntactic features, and the last one is the lexisemantic features. So let us tackle first the graphological features. So through these features, a stylistician can reasonably explore and give descriptions of the physical appearance of a literary text. Here, such as the use of punctuation marks to create stylistic effects are significant. However, the major feature here is foregrounding. In this instance, certain words are foregrounded or brought to the fore to give them prominence through the use of italics, capital letters, underlining, and so on. So now let us proceed to the second one, which is the syntactic features. So the focus of syntactic analysis here is the identification of the effects created by various sentence types in a text, such aspects as ellipsis, parataxis, hypotaxis, right and left branching sentences, and etc. These are considered as significant, of course. So for instance, this location in syntax is occasionally used to demonstrate the dislocation in human thoughts, such as stream of consciousness, and this highly manifested in James and Joyce novels. And so for the last one, let's have the lexisemantic features. So the stylistic use of words here may produce denotative, connotative, collocative, affective, semantic, or stylistic meanings based on the speaker's or the writer's intention. So certain characteristic use of words may help us to identify the context of a text, its genre, its communicative purposes, its author, and so on. And now, we already tackled all the information about the nature and goals of stylistics. We still have the conclusion and the summary. So I will go first with the conclusion. So stylistics adopt a multidisciplinary approach to achieve its goal. It examines language use in a different context in order to determine the style, purposes, meanings, etc., and the overall merit of a particular work. So with the techniques of stylistic at your disposal, you will be able to evaluate any instance of language use with respect to its content and form. So to sum up all the information that was discussed by my co-reporter and yours truly, stylistics enables us to interact meaningfully well with a text. It opens our mind to the various dimensions of a particular literary or non-literary work. It is a discipline which is relevant to all activities which rely on the use of language. So through our knowledge of stylistics, our knowledge of textual appreciation will increase, just as our knowledge of the working of language will appreciate. In short, Stylistics will make us informed observers and analysts of language use in the process of negotiating meanings. And that would be all. Thank you for your cooperation from the very start of this presentation. Have a good day and God bless you all.